competitive, cohesive, at times catastrophic. It's the 10-game review of the Utah Jazz. Next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen and for making Locked on Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. Amazing. Thank you so much, everydayers. You are the best. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers bet $5. When they win, they get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Jazz Hawks tonight. Pretty interesting. Hawks were 2-3 when Trae Young went down. Then they beat a not very good Indiana team, lost to Cleveland, beat Orlando, lost to Toronto, beat a pretty good Lakers team, beat an okay Clippers team, throttled a unmitigated disaster of a Sacramento Kings team, and have suddenly won 4 of 5 and have suddenly won 6 of 8. Is that right? Yeah, 6 of 8 since Trae Young went down, if you count the Brooklyn game, or 5 of 7 if you don't. Pretty fascinating. 7 o'clock tip-off. Quinn Snyder and his coaching staff, who almost all were in Utah, are in town. By the way, if you come to the game, you can listen. We have it's pretty cool. It's lag-free. That's the coolest thing about it. We do leave you on during commercial breaks. You hear Ron and I talking back and forth, and sometimes we talk to you, and sometimes we don't. We just talk. And you hear what's going on if you care to during commercial breaks, and that's kind of cool. But the real thing is it's completely lag-free. So you're on the moment as the game happens. So there you go. Stop by our booth at Section 7 to get the details. We're trying to make it easier for you. Hopefully maybe even integrate it into the Jazz app moving forward. So that's there for you. All right, here's what I want to do. Will Hardy says he looks at everything in 10-game stretches. So throughout the year, after 10-game stretches, we'll look at it. We didn't really have time with the Monday, Tuesday start to the games this week. And then the reaction to yesterday and Ace Bailey playing so well, so it got pushed to today. So we're 11 games in, which is great because it makes us look a little better. We feel a little bit better about who we are as a team. Yesterday we wrapped up the show, Will's Wednesday, with the quote from Will Hardy about it that that there's been a connectivity to the group and that there has been a competitiveness. And these are like esoteric terms out there, but I do think that's true. The biggest takeaway to me of the first 11 games of the Jazz is, one, the group is really cohesive, that the oxygen, Sexton, Clarkson, Collins left, there was oxygen to be had, and the guys took it. Keonte took it with a leadership role. The young guys feel it. They own this. They're feeling the togetherness of this. They're reacting when they play badly. They in the last years, because of the tanking and everything else, there were times when I don't think these guys felt completely connected to what was taking place, and they certainly do right now. So I think that's a pretty good. That's good, and that has led to a general competitiveness. I mean, there has been some really bad starts to games in which I went back and watched, and it's why I didn't think Kyle ran hard, literally, and now he has. The last few games he's been great, and I didn't think Bryce did, and now he has. He's been great. That's part of the process. So I think. I opened with connectivity, competitiveness, and catastrophic. And truthfully, at times, we have been catastrophically bad. So that's really, to me, what the first 10 games is. And then we'll get into player development and stuff. Let's just kind of quickly review where we sit 10 games into the season. We've played so many blowouts that I actually want to use cleaning the glass, because I can use NBA stats, but then that gets into a little bit of that counts every minute. And actually, I don't think we'll be skewed that bad. I'll show you the difference. Actually, there's no need to hide it from you. So we're 23rd in the league offensively, And defensively, we ranked 25th. On cleaning the glass, we're actually 23rd and 23rd defensively. So we're a little better defensively. One of the things I said that I thought should be the goals for the season was to not be 30th in things. Unfortunately, last year we were last in the league in turnovers and last in the league in forced turnovers. And I kind of thought that would be a large area of focus change because the amount of threes being taken has become somewhat universal, which means the possession game's even more valuable. Unfortunately, we're heading back in that direction. We are now once again back to last in the NBA taking care of the basketball. And frankly, as Isaiah plays more, that will probably continue. And we're 27th in the league at forcing turnovers. Now, there were a bunch of goals when the year started. The first one defensively was to deny the rim. That was like the number one. So the two things that you heard Will really talk about coming out of training camp were denying the rim. And so denying the rim was one, and a level of kind of offensive connectivity and pace. We talked a lot about pace yesterday. So if you listen to the show, this I thought was interesting. It's one of those segments. I do this every now and then where I do something I think is really interesting, and then there's no reaction to it. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if that just felt dud, like a total dud. So that might have been a dud. But I thought it was interesting, at least in just what pace is. And we're a half second faster in the last half of games than we were in the first half of games. So I think that's, I think that matters a little bit. All right. The second thing that he talked about was rim. If you look at cleaning and then let's be honest about something here for a second. The Walker injury destroyed all of this. Like, we might not want to kind of admit that, but the Walker injury has absolutely destroyed all of this. And the reason is because, one, Walker was the rim defense. Nurkic, Love, Filipowski are not rim defense. So the rim defense was originally going to be Walker's presence along with guys shifting on the baseline, and that combined presence forced them to kick the ball out, and we were going to give up a lot of threes. But we were not going to allow shots at the rim. And then Walker gets hurt. Now it has to be done a little bit more on the perimeter. Still all the same stuff, but you just can't allow these straight line drives. So here's what's interesting. According to Cleaning the Glass, the Jazz defense is number one in the NBA at denying shots at the rim. Now, this is not universal to everyone, but this is what and in turn is the number one location effective field goal percentage defense. In other words, we're forcing teams to take the lowest percentage shots by location in the NBA. So pretty cool. Like, came out. Now, there are other metrics, just in fairness. Let me just be fair. Percentage of shots in the restricted area, we're sixth. Okay, still great. New York's 1, Oklahoma City's 2, San Antonio, Victor 3, Miami 4, Denver 5, and Utah is 6th. Still great, right? Like, really great. Allowing threes, we're allowing the fourth most of threes. So we've made a conscious effort to try to not allow shots at the rim, and we're going to allow threes. And then what I think Will would be super pleased is if you're I'm using Second Spectrum here, we're fourth best. What did we say? Fourth or sixth best team at denying the rim. We allow the fourth most threes, but we're 18th in allowing corner threes. So from a fundamental, like, game plan coaching standpoint, pretty good. Like, really well done. And this is great because this is a sign that there are defensive principles being put in place, and that the fact we've been 30th every year. Right. So that's great. Where do we stand? So those are, there's my biggest positive on a team sense is we're executing a defensive plan that they came out of camp with, and they're generally doing it, which is terrific. QSQ, which is shot quality allowed, actual shots, we're 18th, I think. Yeah, we're 18th. Oklahoma City's 1, Detroit's 2, Orlando's 3. So that's not terrible. Sacramento's dead last by a large margin. So are the Lakers, interesting. There's also a number, by the way, of how teams are shooting against you, and it kind of normalizes a little bit. We've talked about this a lot. We're right in the middle, so we don't have anything going on there where like teams are shooting particularly well against us in a manner that makes you say like, oh, that's going to come back. Teams are shooting particularly badly against Denver right now, and so that should come back. Keep an eye on that. And teams are shooting particularly well against the Hornets and the Knicks, and that should come back a little bit. Okay, the other one is where do we stand, which I really don't want to get into this too often, but let's be honest, there is a draft pick issue here, and we're playing fairly well. We are now projected to be in the danger zone. SRS, which is a simple rating system of the Basketball Reference, has us in the danger zone. That's next on Locked on Jazz. Today's edition of Locked on Jazz is brought to you by Wayfair. We just did a little wayfaring ourselves, actually. It's a pretty great site. The holiday season is right around the corner, so that might be the reason you want to refresh some things. Get your house ready. Whatever you might need, whether it's more seating for guests, cozy new linens, fun serveware for the holiday hosting, Wayfair's Black Friday sale is here to help you make the space shine. And the best part, you don't have to wait. Wayfair's Black Friday deals are happening all month long with up to 70% on everything from sofas to spatulas. So upgrade like we just did, make the outside area seating better, had some other things to fill up. So go through the site. It's easy to find pieces that actually fit your style, nothing generic, just quality designs that feel personal. If you've ever hosted a family for holidays, you know how much difference a few extra touches make. Let Wayfair make it easy for you. Don't miss out on early Black Friday deals. Head to wayfair.com now. Shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale up to 70% off. That's WAYFAIR.com. Sale ends December 7th. Wayfair. Excuse me. Wayfair.com. Thanks so much for tuning in to Locked on Jazz today. And thank you for making Locked on Jazz your first listen. And thank you for making Locked on the #1 sports podcast network. Okay. So SRS, two things here. We have some of the teams we've played we played the Clippers, we smoked them and they're 3-8. That was actually a warning sign of the Clippers. We played the Kings, we're supposed to be good, they're 3-9. The Suns, who weren't supposed to be very good, are 7-5. So that actually makes it so we've played those, actually a good team there. The Blazers are 6-5. Boston and Charlotte are 6-7, 4-7. Detroit's great at 10-5. Minnesota 7-4, 7-4. Like the Detroit, Minnesota run of 3 games is actually somewhat maybe the reality that, we're short on talent. We got guys that are working their butts off, but like established NBA talent, we've talked about this a lot. We're short on it. It's not going to go away. So where do we sit? Because that draft pick thing is real. So there's this rating called SRS, which is a team rating that takes into account average point differential, strength of schedule, and it's kind of the best way to look at teams. The Jazz are suddenly have Memphis on SRS. The Jazz suddenly have Memphis, Sacramento, Dallas, and New Orleans all behind them in the West. And in the East, Brooklyn, Indiana, and Washington are all awful. 1-10, 1-10, and 1-11. Like their SRSs are by far the worst in the league. Now the Pelicans don't have their draft pick. So at some point you would think they would turn this thing around. I don't know what's happening in Dallas. Sacramento is going to have a fire sale, and we should probably be doing a show on which players of the Sacramento Kings we're interested in having. I think Memphis turns this around at some point, but does not feel like it. George didn't play last night. And right now, our SRS has us at that point. Now, remaining strength of schedule. So remaining average strength of schedule of the team with the hardest strength of schedule the rest of the way is the Indiana Pacers. The team with the second hardest schedule the rest of the way is the Utah Jazz. Now, interestingly, they don't have us as having played necessarily the hardest schedule. Sacramento's played the hardest schedule by far, and Oklahoma City's played the easiest schedule. Oklahoma City will always play the easiest schedule because they don't play themselves. Just kind of a note, right? Brooklyn, Washington, Indiana will always have the hardest schedule because they don't play themselves. So it is worth noting we have the hardest schedule in the West the rest of the way. Okay. One other quick check. I think we kind of did it, was on the 4 factors before we get into the individuals. And we're doing 2 things unbelievably well. We're the second best team in the league in offensive rebounding, and we're the second best team in the league going to the free throw line. And we're the 9th best team in the league at not fouling. Those are great. Those are really, really great. There, when we did all of our offseason interviews, we talked about the 7. So they are the 7 players, and if 2 or 3 of them develop, we're in great shape. So if the premise here is that Lowry is with us, Walker is developed into an NBA rotation player, Ace Bailey has to become a star. Like, there's no other story here that works for us. Ace Bailey has to become a star. And then 2 or 3 of our other 7 players have to become NBA rotation players. And off season, I did all the interviews with all the crew and kind of asked, who do you have? And so I will probably get criticized for this, but I'm going to just kind of semi-rank them every 10 games because I think it'll be interesting to see where they are, and we'll discuss where they are in the process. So Keonte is obviously the story of the first 11 games of the season. I know Ace is everyone's most exciting, but Keonte is the story of the first 11 games of the season. He is a completely different player, different leader, different person, different player. His points per shot have gone from the 47th percentile to the 60th while not hitting a 3. He's gone from 1.09 points per shot attempt to 1.15. It's fabulous. His assist rate is through the roof. It'll probably drop a little bit now that Isaiah's back and he's playing with Isaiah some. He has been really great. The only little outlier, there's 2 outliers. His short mid-range game is at 53%, which maybe it's in the 63rd percentile, which he's 13 of 19. Maybe that lasts. Excuse me, that's 32 of 60. Maybe that lasts. He was at 41%. This is worth watching developmentally. That's a major step. His rim finishing, I think, is completely legitimate, and he has done a wonderful job, and he's up to 68% at the rim. His three-point shooting is not good right now. Some of the numbers, and it's particularly what's interesting is his first year, his pull-up 3 was great. He is 6 of 31 on pull-up 3s, 19%. His catch and shoot, he's at 30%. If that were to last, he does not get first billing on this because you can't be an NBA guard shooting below 30% from 3. I don't think there's any chance that lasts. He was a slow starter shooting 3s to start last year. He might not be a great 3-point shooter, but he was 32% one year and 35% the other. It's kind of logical. He's going to be 36 or 30%, not 27%. I'll be stunned if that lasts. The biggest change in Keonte's game is the amount he's getting fouled. He went from getting fouled 12% of the times he took a shot, and he's now at 19%. He is now in the elite foul drawers of the NBA. That changes everything. So Keonte George is on the top of my list of players of our 7. And really the only one that's made a massive jump, and really probably the only one I expected to have any chance to make a jump right away. So this is all a little bit unfair on that. The second guy on my list, interestingly, if I had to rank our 7 right now, might be Walter Clayton. I like guys who make shots. And Walter Clayton is 6 of 13 on catch and shoot 3s for 46%, and he is 3 of 15 on off the bounce 3s for 20%. And the reason I say this is this was the number one off the bounce 3-point shooter in college by a mile. This is what he does. I actually thought my concern on him coming in is whether he would take enough catch and shoots, because he wants to take an off the bounce 3 every time. And right now he's not getting the off the bounce 3 off comfortably. He's going to figure that out. I think this kid's going to be a bona fide shooter. I think he's going to have to figure out defense. Like Peyton Pritchard is the worst defensive pick and roll player in the NBA right now, maybe the worst isolation player, one of the two. I think Walt is going to always be in that kind of category where he's going to have to really be smart to figure out his defense. But I think the shooting is real. And I think they drafted a special shooter, and he's going to continue to be a special shooter. And I have put him second on my list so far. The rest of the guys, then we get into Isaiah and Kyle Filipowski. And what I love about him, I want to put Bryce in this category too. What I love about the three of them that I've seen in the last few games of this 10-game stretch is their goal this year needs to be to minimize their weaknesses so that their strengths can show. They're all incredibly gifted. Isaiah's ability to play with tempo and pace is incredible. Filipowski's passing, ball handling, offensive creation, incredible. Bryce and Kyle are super slow, and Isaiah can't shoot or hasn't been able to shoot yet. Not can't. And those are their weaknesses that they have to learn how to manage to be able to let their brilliance shine. I'm going to go flip number 3 right now. Because of the fact that I've seen him begin, one of his other weaknesses is he's really not a good rim finisher at all. And the 3 times the other night he was in the paint, he brought the defenders to him. He acted like he was going to take a shot, and then he flips it out for an assist for a 3 and got 3 threes out of it. He's shooting 57% at the rim so far this year. I think he's 8 of 14. His overall shooting is not good this year. I think his effective field goal percentage is 45%. But I've seen strong efforts in the right direction there. He has to be an elite offensive player. But I think and again, I'm going to say this about Kyle and I'm going to say this about Isaiah. I don't expect them to be a great deal better in year 2 than year 3. They got a lot of time in year 1. And when players from year 1 to year 2, players year 1 to year 2 do not get that much better. Players year 2 to year 3 do. Collier would be next on my list. I love what we've seen out of him. And there just are not that many players who can come into a game and change the way a game looks. Now, we haven't seen enough of 3 shooting, and he hasn't had to take them. And eventually you have to take them. Or about 4 guards in the NBA who only take 5 threes a game. Who take less than 4 threes a game. One's TJ McConnell, and there just aren't many guys who do that. And so we'll see. He's played 3 games, but he changes the game when he's on the floor. You cannot, and he's turning it over 27%. There's all sorts of little things. I don't care. Isaiah changes the game when he touches the floor, and that's pretty awesome. Taylor, I'm just giving an incomplete at this point. It was just getting out there. Now the hamstring, not surprising at all that his body's kind of revolting a tiny bit in certain ways. This is not surprising at all. So we'll just get, I've said this the whole time. I kind of think this year, literally, you don't evaluate Taylor. That injury was that catastrophic. It set him back. He's literally trying to get out there. Maybe after All-Star break, you do some evaluation of Taylor, but I'm going to stick to kind of what I said for this thing. Cody, obviously, we haven't seen. And Bryce has been kind of up and down. Bryce is working his butt off the last few games, and we've seen him put out a lot better effort, and he made some really nice plays, and he tried really hard on on Randall to do the right thing on a play, and was so frustrated when he hit the shot. You can see the care and the want to. The strange one, he's not shooting well, right? And Bryce in his first year had a stretch where he did not shoot it well, and it kind of wore him out, and then he got hot last year. This is going to be interesting to me to watch him and see how he comes out of this little stretch right now, because he is a far better 3-point shooter than he's shown. He did, by the end of the Indiana game, hit 4 of 9. He was 2 of his previous 12 going into that game and missed his first 3. So he may have busted out of it already. Such a great shooter. And we'll see. I love the last 2 games. He has 4 rebounds each. That's you've got to be doing more than just taking shots. All right. Some other geeky stuff when we come back, but that's my list as of right now on where the 7 stand and how Lowry's game has changed a bit. Next on Locked on Jazz. Paying rent is a necessity, not necessarily fun, and often feels like you're throwing away money. So therefore, let's get you on Built, because that's where Built comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed toward hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, or more. Because Built isn't just about rent, it's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. Built lets rent work for you, whether it's grabbing food at your local restaurant or heading to the gym. Built has made everyday life feel more rewarding, from your neighborhood to your travel plans. Turn your rent into rewards. Start earning points around the neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. But Built is spelled B-I-L-T. B-I-L-T. No U in there. So join joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. Make sure to use that link so they know we sent you. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. B-I-L-T. Built/lockedonnba. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA and the official sportsbook partner of Locked On. Even if you miss a game or want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to the fourth quarter comebacks. You can even combine live bets in the same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making the late push. The FanDuel Sportsbook tonight as the Atlanta Hawks as the favorite. I believe it was 2.5 when I checked late last night to see. Let's see where it is sitting right now. FanDuel has the Atlanta Hawks at a 2.5-point favorite tonight. The Suns are 4.5-point favorites over the Pacers. Cleveland 7.5 over Toronto, and the Knicks are a 5-point favorite over the Heat, while the Spurs and the Warriors play. Oh, that's a Friday night game. There's only 3 games tonight going on, and an NFL Thursday night game tonight, bringing you the Jets and the Patriots, and the Pats are a 12.5-point favorite in that one. All at FanDuel.com. I wanted to hit some subtle improvements. By the way, if you're watching on Jazz Plus, on the streaming service, you can now stream the audio as well. Flip the little stream button to audio. You can join me and Ron. If you're in the arena, stop by our booth. Find out how Section 7 and Sherry or Ben will help you out to get set up with how to get our broadcast. Kind of fun. All right. Lag-free in the arena. I thought there's something interesting on Lowry at the 10-game mark that I want to talk about. So a year ago, we really tried to have Lauri Markkanen become this like isolation, individual, self-creator. We have not played many close games, but the data shows the opposite. Percentages of his field goals assisted, his 2-point field goals are being assisted at 78% of his 2-point field goals, 95% of his threes. That's not surprising. He's on pace for another 100 dunks and 200 threes, which is just a mind-boggling combination. He blows my mind all the time. I mean, you guys, watching him every day is just incredible. But the idea that Lowry has 75% of his field goals assisted means he really is now playing as the 7-foot Klay Thompson, but he's shooting more twos, which you would think is a sign that he's creating his own stuff. But that's actually not true, right? Like I just showed you that, like, the data shows that he's actually the opposite. He's actually getting more of his shots off of gives and assists and things of that nature. And so I think it's I'm going to actually probably ask Will about it. 10 games through the season, Lowry's field goals are being assisted at 78%. I don't actually have a way. I can probably figure it out, but that is not a filter on StatHead, which is a program many of us use on Season Finder. But let me just kind of go to what I've always said is that he's a 7-foot Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson, at his peak with the Warriors, had 75% of his field goals 2-point shots assisted. So, and right now he has 81%, but he barely shoots a 2. So 75% of your 2 points assisted means you're either getting return in transition or you're curling and back cutting and getting baskets. It's a really, really crazy high number. And I really can't think of any other marquee scorer in the NBA who's at that number. And it tells you that Will's gone back to let's use Lowry to strength where the offense creates for him. The amount of dribbles Lowry's probably taken on points scored is few this year. Okay, isolation defense. Lowry was 1.1 last year. He was one of the worst in the NBA. I think he ranked 171st out of 190. So far this year, he's at 0.97. So from 1.1 to 0.97, a much better, stronger defensive effort by Lowry. Flip, by the way, despite all I've talked about, who was 168th out of 190 last year, is at 1.0 this year in isolation defense. Last year is at 1.08. We'll see if both those hold is going to be the question. But that's great to see. So both those guys just making a lot bigger effort, trying to do a lot of work there. Keonte, who is playing much better in isolation defense, it actually is showing the opposite statistically, which I actually just think what that means is that Keonte is guarding better players than he's ever guarded before in isolation. That probably we've protected him for years, not ever having him get guarding an Anthony Edwards or someone like that. And Will's like, okay, you're out there. Let's go. You're starting. You're playing better players. Let's see what you can do. And he's got to do it. The other one that's interesting right now is our pick and roll defense of numbers, according to Second Spectrum, are kind of all over the map. Actually, statistically, our best, you'll be surprised, our best pick and roll defender right now is Bryce Sensabaugh, who's also one of our worst isolation defenders. By the way, just so you have it, Ace Bailey's defensive numbers are all awful. Not like I'm not mentioning because it doesn't matter. But the exciting one is Keonte. Keonte has gone from 1.02 points allowed on pick and roll defense, which ranked him 113th out of 131. So not good. Is now 0.911. And this is without Walker now. We should not be good at pick and roll defense. So that's pretty exciting. 0.911 for Keonte. Svi's pick and roll defense is 0.86. It's incredible. But that's a great stretch. That's a great step forward for Keonte. He's been 202 pick and rolls this year. It's a good enough sample size. And he's really doing a remarkable job there. And that's pretty great. And we really don't have – Walker was 1.0 on screen as a screen defender. Nurkic is 1.06. Filipowski's kind of 1.0 right now. Love's 1.3. We do not have enough bigs for this. So that's a great sign by Key. All right, that is our 10-game review. Dense episode. Jazz Hawks, join us. Tune in. Throw me questions during the game. We'll answer them on the air. I love interactivity. Let's have some fun. Jazz and the Hawks tonight. Quinn Snyder and the crew are in the house. It's all right now. It's all tonight. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On Jazz. We're now sending the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel, Locked On NBA. Make sure you check out Game Night, Locked On NBA, every game, every night.